How's it going, guys? Today we're going to be doing a quick little update video on how the tire lettering is holding up. So I remember I was promising a couple of you guys that were asking questions about how the tire lettering is holding up, and I'm going to show you just that. So I'm going to take them out, I'm going to do some tests on them, and I'm going to show you what it's like to have paint on the tires. We're going to take a look at how everything is doing, how everything is holding up. So on this one right here on the left we have the rear, and on the right we have the front. So let's start off with the rear first. As you can see, we have the oil-based paint on the Ventus RS4. It's cracking, but for the most part, it seems to be holding up pretty well besides the cracking. Over here, we have the acrylic, and as you can see, it's there, but it's kind of faded. It's kind of like yellowed out, and I don't know what to think about it. It's kind of crumbling, falling apart a little bit. We have the one over here for the oil-based paint again, same deal. It's a little bit less cracking, but nevertheless it's still cracking. And of course we have the Hankook, same thing, a little bit faded, a little cracked up. Now we have the front, and this one seems to be doing a little bit worse than the other one. And you can see the cracking that we have here. Oil-based paint on the Ventus RS4. It's a little messed up, but I mean you can still see it, and you won't even notice it from far away. Hankook over here looks a lot worse than the one from the rear. Oil-based paint. Still cracks everywhere, and of course the Hankook over here looks a lot better than the one from the top. So to give you guys kind of like an overview of what's going on, so I'm guessing that the cracking is a result of me painting them off the car. If it was on the car, the sidewall would have been flexing a little bit more, and the paint would have stuck to the way the curvature of the sidewall was when it's on the car. Of course, this being the first coat and also being new tires, I'm assuming that whatever was underneath, so like that resin that comes out with heat, I'm assuming that had a lot to do with the way everything's coming off. But for the most part, I think the most durable paint here for sure is going to be the oil-based paint. The acrylic paint did not seem to like being on the road as much as the oil-based paint. So I'm going to say that if you're going to do acrylic, know that this is going to be the result eventually. It's going to get faded, it's going to get cracked up a lot worse than the oil-based paint. The oil-based paint is a lot more durable, but make sure that when you're doing this, that it's mounted on the car and that you've driven a couple miles on the tires, so you run a heat cycle through them, get all that resin out. Here's what we're going to do to test out the durability, even though we already know it's kind of cracked up. So we have some Diablo gel, just a little bit, safe font to use on the wheels and the tires, and I have this soft brush for the wheels and tires, and I'm going to see how well this works and how well the tire paint can stay on the tire. I'm gonna let that sit for a minute, and then I'm gonna go ahead and use the brush. Alright, moment of truth, let's see how this does. So I'm just gonna go over it like this. I'm honestly not going that easy on it. I'm putting a little pressure, but not enough so I can get it all out, but just enough to clean. Let's move on to the next one. Be a little more aggressive with this one. Alright, so I let everything sit for a minute, and after I did some scrubbing, I can report to you guys that it looks like everything is in place and intact. Nothing really else came off the tires. Alright, now for the ultimate test. We are going to be hitting it with some water, and I'm going to be using a decent amount of pressure to see what happens when you spray this down. So let's start. Upon further inspection, I can see that the oil-based paint is a lot more durable than the acrylic paint. As you can see over here, we got a little bit more flaking going on. I'm not 100% sure if that's because of the paint itself or because of the surface it's on. Keep in mind that we did have those little grooves in between here. Probably that's why it's chipping a lot more than the oil-based paint. But the oil-based paint seems to be okay for the most part. Even if I rub my fingers along it, seems to be okay. Aside from the obvious cracking, I think that everything is okay. I would just, if I'm gonna do this again, I wanna make sure that everything's 100% clean. I would take this off and I would go ahead and have these mounted on the car when I'm doing them. That way there's flex in the sidewall, and that way it doesn't crack as much as it did when I had them off the car. This side actually fared a lot worse. As you can see, the paint came off a lot more on the Hankook logo here. The Ventus RS4 logo over here seems to be pretty much the same, maybe a little bit more cracking. This Hankook logo has seen way better days. This is really bad. And of course the other Ventus logo is pretty much the same way as we left it when we started. So a couple of things you guys need to know before you guys even tackle the whole tire lettering process is that if you're going to be doing it, make sure that the surface is completely clean, like I mentioned before in that video. But also, it's probably better that if you have new tires to run a heat cycle in them, because if you don't, the same thing that happened to my tires are going to happen to your tires. So it's better to go ahead and just run that heat cycle, get all that mold resin, whatever the hell that stuff is, get all that stuff out as much as you can, and make sure that you have the wheels and tires mounted on the car when you're doing it, because you want to make sure to have that sidewall flex. Since I didn't have them mounted on the car and I did them on the bench, you can still see where the cracking is, and the majority of the cracking is going to be on the oil-based paint anyway. But if you want to make sure you have that clean look, you want to have those clean lines and also have some clean lettering, just make sure that if you're going to do it, have that sidewall flex, have it mounted on the car so that you don't run into the same problems I did. If you guys are new to the channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. If you like this video, hit that like button. That's gonna be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.